Good afternoon from a very overcast Britain. My name is Debbie Whelan. I am an associate professor at the University of Lincoln, and I'm here as the moderator for this particular panel, which is really exciting. Much of my background is in sort of social impacts with respect to buildings and environments. So I'm really looking forward to our four speakers today. If we can possibly start without further ado to the first speaker, I would like to welcome Aslıhan and Şefika, who are going to be presenting a paper known as Gender as an Analysis Category in Environmental Behavior Studies. I look forward to listening to your paper.
Öncelikle herkese merhabalar. Aslıhan ÇETİN, Süleyman Demirel Üniversitesi doktora öğrencisiyim. Aslında bu konuya nasıl başladık üzerinden gidersek, doktora tez araştırmaları esnasında, cinsiyet araştırmaları esnasında bu konunun çok sınırlı sayıda olduğunu fark ettik ve bu nedenle de bu konunun teknik ve yöntemler açısından analiz edilmesinin gerekli olabileceğini ve yeni çalışmalara da ışık tutabileceğini düşündük. Öncelikle çevre davranış çalışmaları nedir diye değinecek olursak, insan ve içinde yaşadığı çevre arasındaki ilişkinin ortaya koyulması olarak tanımlanabilmektedir. Buna göre çevre davranış arasında farklı kavram ve bakış açılarıyla irdelenen bir ilişki söz konusudur ve bu ilişkiyi zaten paylaştığım şemada da görebiliyoruz. Davranışın birçok çevresel faktörle doğrudan birebir ilişkili olduğunu görüyoruz. Bu ilişkinin incelenmesi ve sonuçlarının ortaya koyulması da toplumun yaşam kalitesi ve tasarım açısından oldukça önemli olmaktadır. Çevre davranış ilişkisi nedir diye bakarsak, çevre ve davranış ortak olarak bazı faktörlerden etkilenmektedir. Bu faktörlerin alt başlıklarıyla açarsak, cinsiyet, toplum faktörü, toplumun kültürel, sosyal, ekonomik yapısı yine çevre ve davranışı etkilemekte. Bireysel faktörler olarak mahremiyet, güven duygusu, sosyalleşme, kişisel mahremiyete duyarlılık, kimliği yansıtma isteği olarak görmekteyiz. Cinsiyet ve toplumsal cinsiyet kavramını anlamak gerekiyor bu durumda. Cinsiyet kavramı temelde kadın ve erkekler arasındaki biyolojik farklılıkları ifade eden, demografik olarak onları sınıflandırabilen bir kategoridir. Toplumsal cinsiyet ise cinsiyetlerin eril ve dişil olarak kategorileştiği, öğrenmeye dayalı insan yapımı, toplumun ve kültürün bireylere, yani kadın ve erkeğe biçtiği rol, sorumluluk, hak ve davranışları açıklamada kullanılan bir yöntem olarak karşımıza çıkmaktadır. Yine cinsiyete bağlı roller ve mekan ilişkisine bakarsak, toplum sahip olduğu kültüre bağlı olarak kadın ve erkek üzerinde bazı roller yüklemektedir. Örneğin bunu kadın ve erkek arasındaki ilişkileri kendi kurallarına göre düzenleyerek yapabilmektedir. Toplumda belirli görevler yükleyerek yapabilmektedir. Onların davranışlarını şekillendirerek, yine nasıl hissetmeleri gerektiğini öğreterek ya da nasıl giyinmeleri gerektiğini söyleyerek ve yine onların yaşamlarını sürdürecekleri mekanlarda mimari mekanları sınırlayarak ve tanımlayarak bunu yapmaktadır. Bu süreçte iki cinsiyet arasında ortaya çıkan roller, görev ve haklardaki farklılaşma cinsiyet eşitsizliklerine yol açmaktadır. Genel olarak her toplumda görülen bu eşitsizlik kültüre ve zamana göre değişiklik gösterse de erkeğe atfedilen rollerin kadına atfedilen rollere göre baskınlık göstermesi ve bu rollerin her kültüre daha fazla değer verilmesi toplumda yine cinsiyetler arasında bir asimetrinin oluşmasına neden olmaktadır. Bu eşitsizlik aslında sadece günümüzde değil, çağlar boyunca yaşanan bir durum olmuştur. Buna çok basit bir örnek vermek gerekirse Le Corbusier'in altın oran ve insan ölçülerinden geliştiği modüler sistemi bile erkek bir model üzerinden oluşturulmuştur aslında. Peki bizim çalışmamızın amacı nedir? Toplumdan etkilenen ve ürettiği mekanlarla topluma yön veren mimarlık disiplinini anlamak, toplumu yani insanı anlamak açısından oldukça önemlidir. Mimarlık disiplini günümüze kadar teknik açıdan oldukça ilerleme kaydetmiştir. Ancak yeni kavram ve kuramlara ihtiyaç duymaktadır. Çalışmada bu potansiyel özelinde yeni teknik ve yöntemlerin ve konuların analiz edilmesi açısından toplumsal cinsiyet ara kesilen cinsiyet çalışmalarının analiz edilmesini amaçlamaktadır. Son yıllarda insan davranışı ve fiziksel çevre arasındaki ilişki pek çok disiplinde ilgi görmüş ve çalışmalar hız kazanmıştır. Çevre davranış çalışmalarının çok yönlü karakteri ve çevresel tanımla, tasarımla ilgili problemlere çözüm arayışı konuya olan ilgiyi arttırmıştır. Ancak fark edilir düzeydeki gelişime rağmen fiziksel çevre ve insan davranışlarını algılama açısından çevresel davranış çalışmalarında cinsiyet faktörü çok sığ kalmıştır. Bu nedenle cinsiyetler arasındaki benzerlikler ve farklılıkları anlamak açısından toplumsal cinsiyet ağırlıklı çalışmaların yapılması ihtiyacı duymaktadır. Bu çalışmada bu potansiyel özelinde güncel ve önemli bir konu olmaktadır. Çalışmanın amacı doğrultusunda bir hipotez üzerinden yürütülmüştür. Fiziksel çevrede meydana gelen davranış cinsiyet faktöründen etkilenmektedir şeklinde oluşturulmuştur hipotez. Çalışmanın kapsamı 2015-2022 yılları arasında Türkiye'de ve dünyada yürütülen çevre davranış ve cinsiyet konulu 37 adet yayınlanmış makale, tez, bildiri, kitap ve kitap bölümü çalışmalarından oluşmaktadır. Bu çalışmalara ilişkin sayısal dağılım grafik 1'de verilmiştir. %73'lük yüksek bir oranla makale türündeki çalışmalar görülmekte. %3'lük düşük bir oranda da bildiri türündeki çalışmalar görülmektedir. Çalışmanın bulgularına kısaca değinecek olursak, çalışmada analiz edilen yayınlar yurt içi ve yurt dışı kaynaklı olma durumuna göre yine sayısallaştırılmıştır. Yurt içinde yapılan çalışmalar %54'lük, yurt dışında yapılan çalışmalar %46'lık bir oranla aslında çok yakın sayılardadır. Yine bu çalışmalar bilim alanları ve disiplinlerine göre ve yayın yıllarına göre yine kategorize edilmiştir. Grafik 3 ve grafik 4 bunlara ilişkin veriler yer verilmiştir. Grafik 3'te bilim alanı ve disiplinlere göre sayısallaştırılmıştır. Mimarlık, şehir bölge planlama ve sosyoloji bölümünde çalışmaların ağırlık gösterdiğini görmekteyiz. Grafik 4'te de yıllara göre bir dağılım yapılmış. 2016, 2018 ve 2020 yıllarında yoğunluk olduğu görülmektedir. Yurt içi ve yurt dışında yayımlanmış çalışmalar incelendiğinde aslında yayının iki temel parametreye göre ele alındığı görülmektedir. Bunlardan birisi fiziksel çevrenin davranışsal etkisinin temel bir yaklaşım olduğu, bir diğeri de davranışın farklı cinsiyet gruplarında nasıl çeşitlilik gösterdiği olmuştur. İncelenen çalışmalar konu ve yöntemler açısından yurt içi ve yurt dışı kaynaklı olma durumuna göre tablolaştırılmıştır. Buna göre kent deneyimi, yurt içinde yapılan çalışmalarda kent deneyimi ve mekan cinsiyet ilişkisi konularında yoğunlaşma olduğu görülmektedir. Yöntem olarak da davranış gözlemi ve analiziyle anket çalışmaları ağırlıklı olarak yapılmıştır. Çalışmalarda ayrıca birden fazla yöntemin kullanıldığı yine tabloda görülmektedir. Yurt dışı kaynaklı çalışmalara baktığımız zaman da Konu olarak mekan cinsiyet ilişkisi ve yürüme davranışına cinsiyet etkisi konuları daha çok işlenmiştir. Araştırma yöntemi olarak da yine davranış gözlemi, analizi ve mekansal analiz çalışmaları çoğunlukla görülmektedir. İncelenen araştırmalarda kullanılan teknikler ve araştırma yöntemleri oldukça çeşitlilik göstermektedir. Ancak davranış gözlemi analizi, davranış haritaları, anket, görüşme ve mekansal analiz yöntemleri ağırlıklı olarak kullanılmıştır. Özellikle yurt dışı kaynaklı çalışmalarda sanal ortam ya da sosyal medya verilerinden faydalanarak insan-mekan ilişkisine ışık tutulmaya çalışılmıştır. Çalışmanın ön sonuçlarına bakarsak, çalışma daha önce bahsedildiği gibi farklı disiplinlerde, tasarım alanından sosyal bilimlere kadar bir skalada yer almıştır. Son yıllarda yapılan çalışmaların incelenme nedeni gelişmiş teknik ve teknolojinin kullanılarak veri toplanmasında yeni yaklaşımlar olduğunu göstermektir. Bu yaklaşımlarda farklı disiplinlerde, farklı şekillerde ele alınmıştır. Yine son yıllarda pek çok çalışmada görülen bu durumun toplumsal cinsiyet eşitliğine fazlaca vurgu yapılması ve mekan ile ilişkisinin ortaya konması ihtiyacından kaynaklanmaktadır. Ve nihai sonuçlara da bakacak olursak, Türkiye'de ve dünyada çevre davranış ve toplumsal cinsiyet konulu çalışmaların ne kadar ilgi alanını oluşturduğu ve hangi araştırma tekniklerinin kullanıldığı gösterilmiştir. Yurt içinde yapılan çalışmalarda kent deneyimi ve mekan cinsiyet ilişkisi üzerine odaklanılırken, yurt dışında yapılan çalışmalarda daha çok davranış üzerine cinsiyet etkisi ve mekan cinsiyet ilişkileri üzerinde durulmuştur. Hem yurt içi hem yurt dışında yapılan çalışmalarda çoğunlukla makale düzeyinde ele alınmış tez, bildiri, kitap veya kitap bölümü türünden çalışmalar ise sınırlı tutulduğu görülmektedir. Aktaracaklarım bu kadar. Dinlediğiniz için teşekkür ederim.
Sorry, I'm busy fiddling around trying to find my unmute. That was a really, really interesting paper. Thank you very much. I gather that the next person, Besma, is not here. So without further ado, let's move on to the next presenter, who will be speaking about investigating changing urban proxemics during COVID-19. And this is presented by Chisem Yashin. I hope I've said that reasonably closely. Chisem, are you here? Have we got our third speaker? I'm sorry, I'm afraid
Dzheylan buradaydı ama
I'm getting myself
sesinizi...
Hang on.
Hey, I'm here, but sorry, I didn't understand that. Maybe because of the pronunciation of my name.
No, sorry. No, it's I think, yeah, probably. Sorry about
No problem. Okay, I'm here with my friends, Başak and Büşra. Today we'll be presenting. Now I can share my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So today, thank you once again. Today we will be presenting our research on reconsidering the play value of play spaces, an integrated evaluation approach towards a playful Istanbul. This is the content of our PowerPoint presentation today. Let's quickly start with the problems and backgrounds and why we started this study. When we look at the Turkish statistical data, according to 2021, 6 to 15 age children stay on screen longer at expense of reading, playing outdoors, and sleeping. Again, according to the National Trust Research Institute in USA, children spend only half as much time playing outside as their parents did in the past. And mainly this is due to lack of suitable play spaces, followed by safety concerns and insufficient play value, which are the main factors suggested to hinder children's play. So in this regard, what we aim to research here is how the suitability of playground design could be measured according to quality criteria, and what are the current state and play value of playgrounds under the responsibility of the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. Here you can see the structure of our research. First of all, we started with a literature review and benchmark analysis, which was very important in defining quality criteria according to pre-analysis of the current state of playgrounds in Istanbul. So we defined 5 quality criteria. Then these criteria emerged in an evaluation form, which was important for drafting the integrated playground evaluation approach for the playground analysis. Then we conducted our field studies, which we focused on pilot case of study on 598 playgrounds. Then we proceeded the data through Excel and GIS mapping, where we conducted analysis, where all playgrounds have been evaluated by taking into account the average scores they contain. And we are concluding with findings and evaluation, where we are showing the districts with the most play-friendly playgrounds and their definitions. When we look at the literature review, we focused on 3 main points. First of all, of course, the importance and benefits of play. As we all know, play is a vital form for and important activity for the development and healthy state of children. Then we touched the relationship between play and community, and how play actually plays a very important role in forming community bonds and society. And last but not least, the right to play, which is also stated in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Our benchmark analysis on international strategical documents and evaluation forms of playgrounds actually conducted in our definition of 5 main criteria, which was used for the scoring and for the formation of the evaluation form. First of all, we arose that the most important criteria in Istanbul is accessibility, which also conducts 25% of the total scoring of the evaluation form. Why? Because when you see and have a quick background on the analysis and on the current state of the city, you see that the main purpose and the main problem in Istanbul is actually pedestrian accessibility. Then we have multifunctionality and creative criteria, which consists of 20% of the total scoring of the evaluation form. We focused on sustainability, which conducts 15% of the total scoring of the evaluation form. Then we have inclusiveness, 20%, and safety, which conducts 20% of the total scoring of the form, which actually looks like this. After we defined our criteria, we made an analysis and research on the most important questions that should be actually arising in this evaluation form, and we'll be conducting for a total holistic analysis towards these defined criteria. Then we made our field studies. The field studies started on 19 August 2020 and finished on 11 December 2020. We made an evaluation of 598 playgrounds under the maintenance of the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. As you can see on the photos, we can have a general overview on the current state and the plasticity and too much synthetic material usage of playgrounds, as well as a lot of problems regarding the surface materials and maintenance. What has arisen also on our observations is that children are too much limited in the space, and they don't have any potential to play freely on the playgrounds. After our data collection, we process the data and interpretation of data in Excel and ArcGIS, and we conducted a very holistic analysis and mapping on the current state of playgrounds and the quality on them. Our findings and our evaluation have been arising according to the defined criteria. First of all, we concerned accessibility, and we have seen very, let's say, clear and definite results. For example, around 90% of the evaluated playgrounds provide easy access to neighborhood residents. But it is one very important point to understand that these playgrounds are located on mainly accessible and main access roads in Istanbul. Again, around 56% provide more than one transport access, and only 22% provide parking lots for bicycles, which is also affecting the mobility on pedestrians. And no any provide parking areas for baby strollers, and this detailed information could be also provided and can be seen later on the paper submissions. Again, we have been conducting mapping and analysis on the sustainability criteria, and we have seen that 65% of the surfaces consists of EPDM and its derivatives, and because most of these playgrounds are located on sufficient green spaces and in the, let's say, surrounded by parks, around 95% of them comprise sufficient green spaces in the surrounding area. But again, we should consider and understand that this is analysis made on the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality's playgrounds. One very important thing that we have seen that, for example, no rainwater collection system has been detected, and there are insufficient sustainable systems actually for the maintenance of playgrounds. Regarding the inclusiveness criteria, only, as you can see, 24% of the playgrounds provide equipment for baby and small children's care, and around 55% of them provide VG and other services related again to mothers with babies. Unfortunately, a very low percentage of, for example, 28% of the playgrounds and the parks actually provide ramps. Regarding the safety criteria, we can see that a very high rate of around 54% of the playgrounds have any presence of elements that would threaten the safety of play. And 61 of them provide information signage regarding the use and safety of the play equipment, but usually they're again under maintenance, and only 28% of the playgrounds provide bordering elements for the 0-3 years old, which is very low rate according to defined requirements and standards. Regarding the creativity, we can see that 81% of the playgrounds provide diversity in structure, color, and materials. And we have been also focusing on the main activities like sliding, swinging, and climbing. And 98% of the areas do not provide any play workers or volunteers doing regular free play activities in the play areas when we compare again to international requirements and standards. Our general evaluation on the play friendliness and high play value playgrounds here shows that we have only several highest scored playgrounds, which are only 2 in the European side of the city, and 3 which are very low in scoring. So these are our critical final conclusions regarding the evaluation. On our discussion part, we have been discussing what could be the approach towards a playful Istanbul. And it emerges that it is good that for the first time a general diagnosis of the quality of playgrounds has been conducted. However, elaboration of analysis and the development of measurement criteria should be further evolved. Although the study draws a general framework for the playgrounds under the responsibility of IMM and draws some very positive outcomes, as we have seen, for example, with the accessibility and sustainability criteria, district municipalities and relevant authorities should implement the approach to obtain more holistic data. It is also required to develop an integrated monitoring system and create a network among the related actors for the sustainable management of the playgrounds. The obtained results should be integrated in policy and strategic documents to provide inclusive play opportunities for the overall city. The approach could be complemented with additional social analysis and feedback from users and community in order to follow up trends and changing needs. And in conclusion, such studies could offer an innovative approach in order to develop priority investment programs and support the equal utilization and fair rights to service provision in cities. And maybe this could be a holistic approach towards a playful Istanbul. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dzheylan. That was really interesting. I've got a couple of comments that I'd like to make, but I'll wait until we get to the section on questions. So that was also a very, very speedy presentation. I'm just bringing up my schedule so I get the correct person in the correct order. The next person we've got in terms of the presentation is Albeniz.
Albeniz and Ayce.
Sorry, what was that?
Albeniz and Ayce.
And Ayce, and that is an evaluation of METU and KAEU campuses in terms of accessible campus criteria. So without further ado, I look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you very much, especially for the organizers from Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University for this great events for us. My research partner, Ayce, has a camera problem because she lives in dormitory at Middle East Technical University. This is why she can't open her camera. I'm sorry for this situation, but she's ready for presentation. I'm only here to share my comments. Thank you very much for listening.
Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you very much to all organizers of the symposium. Secondly, I would like to introduce myself and my partner in this research. I am Ayce Devrim, a second-year urban and regional planning student at the Middle East Technical University. And my research partner is a PhD candidate in urbanism at Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University and also works as a research assistant in the political science department at Kırşehir Al-Evran University. Today, I will present our research based on these two university campuses where we spent most of our times according to the accessible campus criteria. Our research title is An Evaluation of Middle East Technical University and Kırşehir Al-Evran University campuses in terms of accessible campus criteria. And also, this research is supported under the TÜBİTAK 2209 program. Today, accessible campus have been established in almost every university in Turkey, and the universities develop projects in this context. But not all their campuses have hold the criteria for barrier-free campus. It should be underlined that the barrier-free campus process was not completed yet. In many universities in the world, and also in Turkey, because it is a continuous period with technological development and updated needs. Campuses must be reviewed repeatedly, and administrators must fulfill the requirements. International standards are provided through the determined student needs, and sometimes new projects are implemented, and sometimes updates are made. The process continues in a similar way in Turkey, and while the newly established universities make great efforts to fulfill the criteria for the barrier-free campus, The old universities renovate their campuses in a way suitable for the use of the disabled. Within the scope of the study, the accessibility analysis of the two campuses located in a medium-sized Anatolian city and a metropolitan one new and one old, was carried out in terms of disabled users. In this research, the accessibility analysis of the campus of Kırşehir University and Middle East Technical University was carried out in terms of disabled users. This paper aims to create a research on the accessibility problems in the two university campuses, to offer suggestions for the transformation of the campuses into handicapped campuses, to underline the importance of the accessibility for everyone, but especially for the disabled, and to draw attention to the benefits of creating an accessibility map on these campuses. And now I will inform you about our research objective. As a result of our findings obtained, accessibility problems in campus area were revealed and accessibility maps were created. As a result of the findings obtained, accessibility problems in campus area were revealed and accessibility maps were created. Now I will go over this analysis and the photos that support them. Before presenting analysis of the research, we should say that in both of cities, Ankara and Kırşehir, it is really hard to access the university campuses for a disabled individual, because unfortunately our cities are not designed as disabled-friendly cities. Although public transportation services are tried to be developed for the use of disabled, unfortunately, the general spatial characteristics of the cities are not good for the free movement of the disabled citizens in the city. And the main campus of Middle East Technical University spans an area of 4,500 hectares, comprising, in addition to academic and assistant facilities, a forest area, 3,000 hectares, the natural lake, Emir, and the technical area. But in this research, the red signed area on the map, where only academic buildings are located and most used by students, is analyzed. Before passing the analysis part, we should underline that the blue line in the red rectangle is the only one pedestrian way that has Braille printing. For this reason, the METU campus has been analyzed only in terms of wheelchair users. And this is the academic zone roads, which was previously marked in the blue line on the map showed by previous slides. And it has been marked for the visual impaired. Apart from this, only the Faculty of Education has Braille printing for the visual impaired campus users. According to participant observation in the field work, this accessibility map of METU campus was created, and it shows the building entrance, continuous access, barriers, and blocked paths for wheelchair users and individuals with walking difficulties. As seen in the photos, for wheelchair users, pedestrian paths are interrupted for many different reasons. It can be sometimes a tree in the middle of the pavement, or a road in somewhere and unrepeated pavements. And since the entrance of many buildings in the campus are straight, there was no need for disabled ramps. However, some buildings have ramps for disabled. In addition, I would like to point out that almost all the disabled parking from the Middle East Technical Campus are designed with the disabled in mind. These parkings are located in the areas closest to disabled access, the areas with ramps. Well, when we examine the buildings on the METU campus through the accessibility of individuals with disabilities, these tables emerge. Almost all buildings have ramps for the disabled, but various stairs still play a restrictive role. All buildings have disabled parking space. Only 50% of buildings have a Braille printing. In addition to spatial markings of the education faculty, approximately 50% of the buildings on the campus are accessed using the Braille printings we have marked as blue. If we examine some examples of buildings, we see that there are measures regarding the accessibility of disabled within the Faculty of Architecture, but there are many restrictions around it. When we look at the English preparatory building, we notice that measures have been taken in and around the accessibility of disabled. At the entrance of the civil engineering building, we see that although the stairs are restricted for the disabled, a wheelchair lift is used. Directorate building appears as a building where all kinds of prevention are taken in terms of access for disabled. And lastly, it has been determined that the education faculty building is the most suitable building, especially for the use of the visual impaired. So when we examine the Kırşehir Evren University campus in terms of disabled use, it wouldn't be wrong to say that the campus has many advantages for the use of visual impaired individuals in general, especially in terms of braille printing. An important accessibility has been achieved throughout the campus. In addition, all buildings on the campus have suitable conditions for the use of the visual impaired and wheelchair users. It has been determined that there is no braille printing on certain sidewalks within the campus area. And as can be seen from the photographs, we see that the Faculty of Arts and Science building is designed for the use of disabled individuals. As I show on the previous slides, we can see that Faculty of Physical Education Sports is also designed for disabled people. It is possible to come across many good examples of disabled individuals in the Faculty of Economics and Administrative Science building. Besides good example, it has been determined that some areas within the campus have problems that will hinder the use of disabled people. However, these areas can be improved with minor repair works. When we examine the buildings on the Kırşehir Evren University campus in terms of disabled use, this table emerged. Disabled parking is available in all buildings except the campus entrance and the girls' dormitory. There is generally no parking area in the girls' dormitory, and the parking area of the Faculty of Economics and Administrative Science is used because it is very close. For this reason, we can think that there is a disabled parking area in this building as well. Braille printing is available in all buildings except the Faculty of Fine Arts. There are handrails in all the buildings needed in the campus. In addition, all buildings with stairs access have ramps for disabled. In this context, it will not be wrong to say that all buildings on the campus are disabled friendly, except for the Faculty of Fine Arts. The METU campus has to make more efforts to obtain the disability-friendly campus site. Due to its being an old campus and the characteristic of the topography on which the campus is located. The biggest problem in the METU campus is access to faculties from the campus entrance. Since the land is very large, it takes some time to access on foot. Maybe it can be provided for the disabled to access the ring shuttle more easily. The second problem is that there is a continuous access on the payments, but suddenly the trees are in the middle and the transition are blocked. When we consider the Middle East Technical University campus in terms of wheelchair users, we can say that access to the Department of Food and Geology should be reconsidered because it's really problematic, and the Faculty of Education can be a good example of barrier-free design. For the use of a visual impaired, there is definitely a need for a barrier printing work on campus. It should be noted that in general, the METU campus is a well-designed university campus in terms of walkability. It is also convenient for private vehicle access, and disabled parking space are available in almost all buildings. Kırşehir Evren University seems to be much closer to receiving a disabled-friendly campus title in general. especially the braille printing, in almost half of the campus are provide an important advantage in this sense. In addition, the sidewalks on the campus provide ease of use for wheelchair users. Of course, it should be noted that the place where the payments are interrupted are also available in the Devrim University. However, these problems are not so large that they cannot be solved with small improvement works. It was observed that only one of the buildings in the campus didn't have braille printing. However, due to the fact that the Faculty of Fine Arts building is a single-story building and a very small building, this arrangement can be made very quickly. The two examples shown in the photos above constitute the most basic physical problem observed in the two university campuses. And the two examples in the bottom photos show the simple solution actually is. If these applications are carried out, METU campus will become a barrier-free campus for wheelchair users, and Devrim University will become a barrier-free campus for both visually impaired and wheelchair users. And to conclude, within the framework of the inclusive design principle of both campus areas, it should be considered to design landscapes and open space where everyone living on the campus can easily access and spend time without being hindered. Strategies to be developed within the framework of this principle are quite comprehensive and require thinking at different scales. All landscape elements and components from orientation, marking, material section for pedestrian path, and user comfort should be designed within the framework of inclusive design principles. Thank you for listening.
Ayce, thank you very much for that really interesting presentation. And you are 1 minute short of 15 minutes, so well done on keeping to the time. Albeniz, thank you for your contribution in that as well. Do we have the next speaker, the final speaker? I'm just checking. Has Besma arrived? Is she here to present? Not here. Okay. Can I lead the discussion now with a few comments about the different papers, and then leave it open to the people in the audience and the panels to be able to ask questions. So the first paper I found really interesting and made really interesting connections between gender and space. And I feel that these are absolutely critical in understanding the contemporary and future cities. And I suppose my understanding of it comes from a South African perspective. I don't come from England. So my experience has been in a very multicultural and very multi-conceptual environment. And I understand that the Western ideas of space and moving through space are very different, for example, from African spaces. So in terms of being able to understand future cities, but also in including women and children with respect to the Sustainable Development Goals. So these are really important conversations that we should be having at an urban and a city level. I was also quite struck by the results of the publications, and that urban design or urbanism seemed to be the area which was looking at this much more critically, whereas I would have also thought that something like sociology or anthropology would have connected with a lot of these discussions. The second paper, which was about children and play parks, absolutely astounded that 598 different sites you visited. That's a hell of a lot of playgrounds. And it was a very well-structured presentation. The processes which you went through in order to be able to do that research were really interesting. I was quite compelled by both the best and the worst play spaces being on the European side, whereas on the Asian side, there was sort of quite a dearth of information, and one begins to sort of say, well, what does that say about the separation and within Istanbul itself. I was also really interested in your comments, Dzheylan, that there were very little or very few resources for 0 to 3-year-olds. So this means that the real small children who need to learn how to play are almost inhibited in their access to play areas. And this is something which, as designers, I think that's almost the funnest part of being able to work with playgrounds, is being able to sort of understand those sort of crawling, early walking, early running sort of opportunities. Accessible campuses, the accessibility maps were really interesting. I suppose with this one, I suppose where I'm coming from this one is South Africa, because of its significant challenges with respect to race, was able to bring out really aggressive legislation in the last 15 or 20 years, which was aimed at inclusivity. Because of the race issue, it went across the board to disability or inclusivity, or as we say in South Africa, universal access. So I find that in England, universal access is actually way down the list of priorities. It's absolutely shocking that I would think that in a first world country, or to use a bad term, but to use it in a developed nation, I would have thought that accessible access would have been something much more prioritized in terms of buildings and in terms of streetscapes and urban spaces. At the same time here, it's also really interesting that accessibility is now beyond the sort of standard physical sort of abilities, and it now moves into things like dyslexia, neurodiversity, and all sorts of different ways of experiencing space, especially with things like autism and epilepsy and things like that. So there's a whole new lot of scholarly work that's coming in terms of accessibility. But I would like to know what the sort of connection is with accessibility in terms of legislation in Turkey, and whether you are working off existing legislation or whether your work has got the potential to inform and really stabilize legislation as far as universal access is concerned. So those are my basic comments. I really enjoyed all of those papers. It was really interesting to hear that these are very important discussions, particularly at student and young researcher level, and I enjoyed those. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions to add to my comments, or whether there's anything specific that anybody wants to raise. Over to the audience. And I'm looking for hands in the chat. Where are the hands? Participants, where are the hands? Okay, we've got somebody in attendees. So is it Mile?
Oh, yes, here I am.
Fantastic, thank you.
I don't know if you can see me.
I can see your hand and I can see your name, but either way, it's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I don't know how am I going to turn on my camera. Probably my friend's going to help me to do that. Or maybe just my voice will be enough. I have two questions, actually. One question will go to Dzheylan about the Playful Istanbul. You already mentioned that you were going to check the social analyses afterwards. So there will be analyses about the participants and the users. But I just want to hear about your experience in the field. How did you observe the kids playing in the playground? What kind of equipments do they choose, or which playgrounds they prefer to play? You mentioned that there are some plastic equipments and wooden equipments. Some playgrounds were in the neighborhood, some of them were at the peripheries and so on. What was your expression? I want to hear that.
Hello, and thank you for the question. First of all, we should consider that Istanbul is quite rich in socio-cultural differences, and really one region varies and one district really varies to another. But usually the use and the preference of children is based on their ages. And unfortunately, we should say that although the playgrounds are defined for the use of 6 to 12 years old, usually we cannot see children that are more than 10 years old. This is one of the important points. Another thing is that, as you already mentioned, we have this plastic equipment which is designated for the activity. What I mean that children usually don't have any allowance to prefer to do something else other than what they can see on the playground. And it is really difficult to understand their preference and whether they really like it or not. That's why in the social analysis and on our further analysis, we would like to make this observation and behavioral mapping of children, which will be conducted in a more broader spectrum, and maybe it will take at least 6 months, I'm not sure, but we need to go and to see playgrounds on definite, for example, in the morning, in the afternoon, or after school, because on the time periods that we observed playgrounds and we made the evaluations they were really different. Because of the traffic of Istanbul, when we, for example, go outside in the morning, we can visit and see one playground very empty because children are at school at this time, and we cannot really understand whether this playground is really used or if it is preferred. But in the afternoon hours, when we are on another playground and it is already after school clock, we can see a lot of children on the playground on, I don't know, for example, in Beşiktaş, doesn't matter in which district we are. So I understand your question, and it is very, very valuable for us. But unfortunately, we cannot specifically say which equipment is preferred more than the others in comparison to others. But what we have seen so far, for sure, whether we go and ask children, they usually say that they love swinging. It is one of the favorites. Yes. And when we ask this one or that one, it's they really enjoy this particular movement, you know, of freedom.
Yes.
And for sure, number one preferred equipment is the swing.
And I also want to ask about the parents. Did you observe any parents around with the kids and how they interact with the playgrounds?
Yeah, we have been discussing also with some parents. Usually, they are too much, let's say, limiting the child. They are too much caregiving and limiting the spectrum of the activity. And
that's what parents do, actually. Yes.
Yeah, and the motion of the child, unfortunately, and they are usually very concerned about the hygiene. Like, don't touch this, don't go there, don't do this. And unfortunately, we are not parents still, but we can understand also their precautions and why they're doing this, especially in times of pandemics and, you know, insecurity in terms of health. But that is why we were underestimating and very clearly defining these sustainability criteria and the availability of natural elements and in the nearby and surrounding of playgrounds, because we understand that this is actually the freedom that the children need outside these plastic boundaries.
Thank you. Mela, was that the only question? Well, those were the only questions you had, or did you have?
I have one more, if you're allowed. I don't know if I'm pushing the time.
You're absolutely welcome. We've still got another 12 minutes.
Thank you so much. I have another question for the Albeniz about the accessibility of the campuses. Actually, did you check the integration with the buildings and the topography? I mean, you talk about 2 campuses, and they are, as far as I know, they are one of the largest campus in Turkey, the Middle East Technical University, and also the other one. Probably we need to understand the morphologic relation of buildings and the topography and the pedestrian accessibility according to these two elements. So it will be more, let's say, enlightening us if we have any idea about these.
Can I answer? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Thank you for the question. Actually, both the campuses are on the flatland. We didn't include the whole part of the ODTÜ campuses, I mean, Middle East Technical University campuses, because it's a huge campus, I know that, and also it's really hard to make accessible for disabled the whole campuses in a settled area, because the university was established in the 1950s and it's one of the oldest universities in Turkey. This is why we tried to actually compare these two universities, because we wanted to see that the new universities, what they are doing, because their campuses are very new. Actually, Kırşehir Ahevran University was established in 2006, and the land was flat and empty, and they designed the whole campus area very new. This is why it's easy to make accessible for disabled, of course. And in conclusion part, actually, we should have told this. And in ODTÜ Middle East Technical University, actually, it's really hard to make disabled criteria available now, because the trees grow up a lot and you cannot cut them. It's not also a good thing as an environmentalist perspective. And this is why they should change the road actually sometimes, because there should be a vehicle, I mean, wheelchair users also in the campus, and they should think about this. This is why we put only the physical characteristics of the areas for disabled persons. But Professor Deborah also told us that, of course, available for disabled people, not only as physically, there should be also like computer systems for them, and also for some sickness, they should be careful about them. And this kind of many implementations we see from the world, actually, in developed world especially. But only we look these two campuses to analyze only wheelchair users and the individuals who cannot see very well. This is why we underlined this part actually in the research. Of course, we are planning to continue for these other groups. We are planning to analyze for the other groups also, because Ayce got a scholarship from TÜBİTAK for this project, and it's like in process now. And this is like the first findings actually from the project. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for that, Mile. Any other questions for the speakers? It's a case of going, gone by the sounds of things. Thank you very, very much, everybody. I think that was a really exciting series of talks. And it was really, really great. I feel really privileged to have been part of this. So please enjoy the rest of your conference. And I'm sure that Ebru will keep me posted as to how it goes. So thank you very, very much. Okay, are we okay? Are we okay to
Thank you.
To finish? Thank you.